So the New Testament does not record faults. The New Testament records faith. So notice that the old covenant looked for fault. Now that is different from what was spoken of Abraham. That covenant called Old Testament is different from what was recorded of Abraham. Look at what was recorded of Abraham. Luke chapter 1 verse 77. Please pay attention. Luke chapter 1 verse 77. To give knowledge of salvation unto his people by the remission of their sins. To give knowledge of salvation unto his people by the remission of their sins. Salvation, remission of sins. So why was the covenant made with the fathers? When he took them and led them by the hand out of Egypt in verse 9 of Hebrews chapter 8, which is what we refer to as the old covenant. The Hebrews chapter 8 verse 13 will explain to us. Put it up for me, pay attention. Hebrews 8:13. In that he saith, a new covenant. He hath made the first old. He had made the first old. Glory to God. He had made the first old. Now, that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. It decayeth, it waxeth old, is ready to vanish away. So the first is called old by the writer and was explained in that same verse 13. It decays, it waxes old, it vanishes away. The old covenant, which is what they call the first. It decays, it waxes old, it vanishes away. Therefore, take note of this if you are writing number 1. The writer speaks of Moses in Hebrews chapter 8 verse 5. God leading them, talking about the fathers and Israel, out of Egypt through Moses in verse 9 of Hebrews chapter 8. Moses led them out of Egypt to the promised land. That their going out was the day the old covenant or the first covenant was made, which finds faults. The old covenant or the first covenant was made, which finds fault. Number 2, the testament they were given by Moses after they left Egypt is the testament the writers refer to as first or old. That testament that they were given when they left Egypt to the promised land is what the writer of Hebrew refers to as first or old. Number 3, the first or the old found fault. The first or the old covenant found fault. The new covenant does not find fault. The old covenant found fault. The new covenant does not find fault. Number 4, the new has made the old or the first old. It is the new covenant that retired the first covenant as old covenant. You didn't hear that. It is the new covenant that retired the first covenant as old covenant. Are you still in the building? Yeah, the new covenant. Now that which decayed and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. So the arrival of the new sends the first on retirement as old covenant without retirement benefits. Stay with me. So the old was used by the writer to explain to his audience that the first is no longer in use. The first covenant is obsolete. It's no longer in use. It's expired. It's retired. All right. Now please stay with me. That means therefore that there was no old covenant in Genesis. Because the first covenant, which is the old covenant, was what was given to them in Exodus chapter 12. So Abraham and the rest were not there when the first covenant, which is the old covenant, was given. And the arrival of the new covenant rendered the first covenant as old covenant, retired it without any benefit. Are you following? Now, please stay with me. This is very crucial for the things I want to teach you this month. Now, so, there was no old covenant in Genesis. The old covenant started not even in Egypt. It started when they left. When they left Egypt. So even when they were in Egypt, there was no old covenant or first covenant. Now, the question will be, if there was no first covenant or old covenant in Genesis, and even when they were in Egypt, on what terms did they relate with God? On what terms did they relate with God? Now, stay with me because I'm going to get into that and pay some attention. On what terms did they relate with God? Moses and Abraham never met. Abraham was not under the old covenant. He was not in Egypt with them. He died in Genesis 25 verse 8. So what covenant did God give to Abraham? Everybody listen carefully. If you miss this, you shouldn't have come to church. God does not have two covenants. Let me run a bit. God does not have two covenants. God has only one covenant. God does not have dual nature. God is consistent. The same yesterday, today, forever. So he cannot have two covenants. God has only one covenant. And that covenant has been before time began to the end of time. So that will mean if there are two covenants, one is from God and the other one is from man. Because God can't have two covenants. God has only one, which is a reflection of his character and a reflection of his nature and his reflection of how he relates with men. He doesn't have double standards. It is a lack of understanding what I'm teaching you now that you hear some people say, why is it that the God of the Old Testament was more powerful than the God of the New Testament? It's not true. It's a lack of understanding. God does not have two dual nature. It's not like God was a bad boy in the Old Covenant. Then after Jesus died in the New Covenant, God now say, okay, from now I'll be a good boy. No, that God is not like that. God is consistently, constantly constant. The same yesterday, today, and forever. So God does not have two different dealings with people. His dealings are the same because God does not have respect of persons. His dealings are the same.